Sure.
What time is it?
All the guys, from the JV to the varsity guys, just for dedicating their time, their commitment, and their work ethic in our program for so many years. Also, obviously, got to thank the guys that volunteer for us. Andrew Ginsberg, like you've already mentioned, for the JV, helping out on the JV level is big help to us and very important. Mike Spraz and Drew Trory, who help out and have volunteered their time in the varsity the last few years. They were players of mine who I really respected and were two of my favorite kids maybe coming through the program because of the way they carried themselves as players. And they've dedicated their time to come back and help us out. And now not only have they been great as coaches, but they've become very good personal friends. So I appreciate that very much. Obviously, I want to congratulate our JV guys. Very important for you guys. Obviously, to go 8-0, which is a big feat. But it's important to learn how to win down there. Whether you win 4 games, 6 games, 8 games, whatever number of games you win, it's important to learn how to win down there because it really ends up, setting the groundwork for your future at the varsity level for years to come through your career. So congratulations to you guys for obviously a fantastic season. You did a really nice job. As far as our varsity goes, I want to really start by saying what a pleasure it was to coach this year's group of kids at the varsity level. It really was probably the nicest collection of young men that we've had the fortune to coach in our program since I've been here. And that's really because they were respectful, they were trustworthy, they were hardworking, they were dependable, they were enthusiastic, they were coachable, they were great teammates to one another, and most importantly, they were prideful of being a Viking football player, which is very important to us. I told them after our Kenmore West playoff win that one of the most important things to me as a coach, whether we win or lose, is that when we have our fans in the stands and we have ex-Grand Island football players coming to watch us, that they leave saying they're proud of the Vikings and proud of our program. I think the people that day that left Crosby Field probably said that they were proud of the Vikings. Every team we've ever had gets to write their own story. If you look at our football program's history, which you can look at the back on records, there have been some great stories written by our past teams and great stories written by individual players. Each team ultimately writes their own story about what their record is going to be, what their identity will be offensively and defensively, how they will react to failure and success, what type of attitude they will have, what their work ethic will be like, what type of character they will possess, and ultimately what type of legacy they will leave when they're finished playing as a Grand Island Viking football player. The story that this team wrote was as memorable as any we've had in any other year. Not because of our final record, but because of the totality of all the other things I mentioned earlier. We were a team this year that relied a little bit more on our run game than we have in the past few years. We were a defense that was young but played very hard every week. We reacted to some of our tough, close defeats with 2 of our biggest wins of the year. We maintained an amazing attitude after our 3 losses in a row. And we had a continued belief in ourselves as a team and in our teammates. Our work ethic remained strong, knowing that there was room for improvement. Our character was even better, never pointing a finger at anyone when we made a mistake or had a loss, but supporting each other because we knew we were close to where we wanted to be. As far as the legacy they left behind, the Amherst game turned out to be one of the most memorable wins in the history of our football program. Scoring 15 points in the last 2 minutes to get into the playoffs by winning by a 17-point margin really is as good as it gets. Then following that up with a great road playoff victory against Kenmore West, where we scored 35 points and held them to none in the second half, only made that legacy feel even better. And finally losing a courageously hard-fought battle with an undefeated South Park team, who we had an opportunity to take a lead with 11 minutes left and came up a little short, cemented this team's legacy that was as resilient as any team we've ever had. The coaches that night after our Amherst game started to rank some of our greatest wins we've had in the last 18 years. And we quickly came up with 10 to 15 pretty easily. But the Amherst game that night ranked up right up there with those top 15 because of the circumstances and the way it played out and what was at stake. The legacy this group left and the story they wrote was one of fun, pride, friendship, trust, commitment, passion, perseverance, and love. That's a pretty special and true definition of a team, and ultimately what we want our Viking football players and our teams to be. I had a coach say to me last year after our season at an NFL banquet, who has coached JV and varsity football for the last 36 years and runs one of the most successful softball programs in the last 25 years at one of the schools in our league, say these words to me. There are only 2 schools in Western New York that are never down in football, and that's Orchard Park and Grand Island. That is how our program around the area has been looked at for the past 60 years since Coach Mastert started the program here. It is a lot of pressure, but it's one that we welcome and strive to maintain. We had a handful of seasons with losing records, but by no means were they ever down, just like this season. No one plays a Grand Island team and thinks that it's going to be an easy one. That is important to us, and we hope to continue that. I always try to reflect on the reasons why I always wanted to coach, and I continue to coach. And it's obviously for the love of the game. To me, it's the greatest team sport ever played. But I ultimately coach because I get to work with kids that are developing into young men. And we're able to do this through the teachings of football. And that's what makes it so great. Regardless if this team was 9-0, 4-5, or 0-9, it would have been a successful year because of the makeup of this group. They were respectful of their teammates and cared for them. They loved to play this great game. They always wanted to improve because they knew we let a few games slip away. And they never made excuses for themselves and never pointed fingers when things didn't go well. And there was never anyone in this group that was selfish or felt they were above anyone else. That's what makes this group so enjoyable to have had. I think what always ends up getting lost in a season is that everyone you play is doing the same things you are to be competitive and win. Everyone has talented players that work just as hard as their rivals. They also have coaches that are very good at what they do and spend just as much time as you do in your program. And every team has a game or two where they play really well on a given night, and every team has a game or two where they don't quite play to their potential. It's the nature of high school sports. But what we always continue to do as coaches in our program is to have belief in our teams, expect nothing but the best from them, work hard to do what we do, and enjoy the experience regardless of the outcome. Because it is a fact that half the teams in the country, every single weekend, lose every week. It's how you respond to those setbacks and what you're able to learn from those losses that make you a better player and a person. I think the story that this year's team wrote, in our last 3 games especially, is the story that makes each player and coach proud to be a Viking. Thank you, guys.
The use of totality in your speech was a fantastic word for you. That was really good. It was good. Well used. I want to apologize too. I'm a little underdressed than usual. I like to, everybody looks so nice, but I actually woke up in New York City this morning. Don't know how I got there, so that was weird. No, my wife and I were away for the weekend, and so she dropped me off on the way here. This is as fancy I wanted to be on a 6-hour car ride. So, anyway, I'm going to muck through this. Okay, some random thoughts. Oh, by the way, too, I didn't bring a printer, so I typed this in the car, and I realized that I don't have a printer. So that's why I have a laptop up here. It will probably not work well for me. Okay. Good evening. Viking football players, coaches, fans, siblings who are forced against their will to be here. I say it every year, I love banquets. And the reason I love banquets, it's a celebration. We get to celebrate the accomplishments of all the football players and coaches in this room. I also relish an opportunity to talk to a captive audience, because most people just walk away from me. So you're here, I'm here, you're stuck in your seats, so let's get at this. In today's culture, we are inundated with fake news, hashtag fake news, false facts, and the lines between facts and fiction are blurred. So what I'm going to present to you are hard, stone-cold facts. It's exciting, right? Yes. Okay. Fact one, I love football. I love the Vikings. Fact two, football players are special. Why are football players special? I talked to the guys earlier in the year in here, but I need to tell everybody this. Okay? It starts back in the Civil War. Okay? Okay, little history. Okay? After the Civil War, okay, the generation that went through the Civil War, they were battle-hardened, tough. They were worried about the next generation. They were soft. They were weak. They needed to create something that would be the moral equivalent to war, to toughen them up. So what did they come up with? Well, a few years later, in the hallowed grounds of Rutgers University, they played the first contest that would eventually come to be the great game we know and love, badminton. No, football. And because of this, they designed this game of football, okay? That leads me to fact four. Football players have courage. Now, I realize, it's not politically correct to be Johnny Tough-Nuts and things like that. But let's face it, the game designed as a moral equivalent to war separates itself from other sports because it does take courage to be a football player. Normal people don't sacrifice their bodies for the love of a game. Normal people don't relish the opportunity to hurl their bodies at another human that's hurtling their bodies back at them. This takes courage, a little bit of crazy, and this is what makes this game so special and why it makes football players in this room unique. Fact five. Football players use their cerebrum. I said it wrong. I don't know how to pronounce it. And you know what the irony of that is? It's your brain. You need to use your brain in football. Everybody thinks of, the tough guy stuff. But really, if you don't understand a strict regimen of concepts to be successful, it doesn't matter if you're the best athlete or the toughest athlete, because if you don't know your job, you will not be successful. Fact 6, GI players are a cut above. Whether our players came from the upper GI or came out the lower GI, we know the young men on our team the young men on our team were going to be an amazing group to work with, and they did not disappoint. Parents, you have raised fine young men that will continue to grow and excel in life, which is way more important, as you've heard other coaches say over and over, way more important than wins and losses on the gridiron. Fact 7, gridiron. Who knows why it's called the gridiron? 1,000 points. Anyone? One of the first football fields not only had lines sideline to sideline, but they also had lines end zone to end zone. That looks like... Thank you. Okay. Back seven. Like Coach said, it's hard to win games. Other teams and other players work hard and are talented. They are also well coached. But that brings me to fact 8. We are Vikings. We are successful because we are valiant. Valiant. We show courage and moxie. We are intelligent. We aim to be better prepared than our opponent. We kick ass. We are aggressive, physical, and tough. We are impassioned. We love the game of football. We are non-stop. We have a whistle-to-whistle and no-quit attitude. We are goal-orientated. Goal-orientated. You know how long I had to rehearse this? My wife in the car is like, what are you doing? Trying to make letters. We're goal-orientated. We set and strive to reach our goals. We are self-disciplined. Mental and physical mistakes must be kept to a minimum. These are the attributes that made you successful on the football field, gentlemen. And they are also the attributes that will make you successful in life. Seniors, thank you for all of your passion, your work, your sacrifices. Getting to work with you, coach you, and most importantly, getting to know you personally was an absolute honor. Best of luck in all you do. Come back and visit us, and make sure to remember the lessons you learned as a football player. They will get you to where you want to go. Underclassmen, let's get to work for 2020. Go Vikings.
I always get to follow that guy. I don't really like it. He's got better hair, got better history, he's got everything better.
You know behind the scenes.
I know. We all know. Yes. To say you muck things up is an understatement. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Also like to thank the parents. We're doing something right on Grand Island with your kids. We come to practice every day. Not have to worry about the little things. We know our kid's going to do right. We know our kid's going to do well in school. That makes our job a lot easier. So, hats off to you guys in the chairs tonight here, with your kids. Thank you for everything that you guys do for us. This year, we'll go down in my mind as one of the most enjoyable teams I've ever worked with. Coach pointed on that earlier, that this group has been a special group. They worked extremely hard and they entertained us with some memorable moments. When the season was starting, we were not sure what type of team we would develop into. We had lost some key components on the line from the year before. We needed guys to quickly develop. We were going to start the year with a ton of inexperience. As the season wore on, they started to develop, and more guys had to step up because of injuries. And by the end of the season, they were all playing at a very high level. Most games being overmatched by size, but never by the fight or determination they played with. Our underclassmen linemen of Ethan Delo, Dan Turner, Joe and Luke Seifert, Lucas Tahara, Eric Zuma, Griffin Miller, Dominic Ramza, Josh Archer, Tyler Grant, and Frank Georges have gained the experience to form a solid returning group that should bring a lot of leadership to us next year. Thank you to all our seniors, senior linemen, Jack Hammond, Matt Newbold, Casey Dummett, Logan Snyder, Brian Butcher, Caleb Messick. All show the younger players what hard work and commitment to the program will do for them. I want to personally thank Ronnie Epoloni and Stephen Palmieri for coming out for the first time as seniors and giving 100% every day they were in practice, knowing that playing time would be minimal, but never back down from anything we asked them to do. You both made the team better with your efforts. To all of you collectively, thank you for making Grand Island football better with your efforts. Once a Viking, always a Viking. Now my poem. It always gives me a lot of stress during the last week coming up to it. I never planned early enough to do this. I always try to do last minute, trying to get the right inspiration to try to write this poem. Not easy being a phys ed teacher trying to write an English project, but sometimes we always do it. I was actually ahead of schedule, and I actually started working on it during the week. And then my youngest son, who's 7 months, We're at the emergency room. He had RSV, which is not a car. No, it's a virus. Yes, it's a virus in his system. So that one night there, stayed home with him. Then I developed the flu. My daughter developed the flu. My other son developed the flu. Flash forward to about 3 o'clock today, and I'm still working on the poem. So my wife said to me, well, would it be any different from any other year? So this is what we did. We had a pretty good game this year. I don't know if you guys heard about it, the Amherst game. A little bit of excitement. So I went off of that, obviously, inspiration for the year. And the poem is entitled Win by 17. Hopefully it goes well. We knew the task at hand, battling an opponent, but also the score. Every time we put the ball in the end zone, it wasn't enough. We needed more. As the game proceeded before us, we knew we were in for a fight. Tonight was not going to be a blowout win. Playoffs were steadily going out of sight. Up by 2 points late in the contest, our focus now was just to win the game. Our opponent tonight was formidable. Their goal and expectation was the same. They knew what we had to do. They wanted to keep us from our goal. If we were to complete our mission, everyone had to know their role. Then something happened. Momentum was now on our side. A turnover by the Tigers. Excitement was hard to hide. Our Viking faithful were behind us, their cheers ripping through the air. This was going to be our night. We started playing without a care. As we marched down the field, capping the drive with a score, up by 9 at this point, everyone knew we needed 8 more. An onside kick was near impossible. Could we pull it off tonight? This was the only chance we had. The kick had to be just right. When the kick hit the ground, it was like something was guiding the ball. When the Vikings made the recovery, there was belief felt by all. 4 plays later, the crowd woke up the night. 2 more points would do it. The playoffs were back in sight. As they lined up for the conversion, not one person was in their seat. And when the ball crossed the goal line, the task was now complete. As the fans stormed the field, the reality of this night set in. This team was very special. They will be remembered for this win. Thank you.
He knows I was just kidding before. Mike, fantastic job again. Fantastic job. It's always good. It might go down as the best. It might go down as the best. What we're going to do is I'm going to have Coach Stauffer, Coach Chory, Coach Brown, and Coach Steph come up. We're going to call and start out with our underclassmen and call them up. And then I'm going to say something about the group, and then we'll go ahead and call the seniors up. And you can feel free, obviously, to give them a clap as they come up. Number 3, Jake Miller, fullback linebacker. Number 8, Tyler Figliola, linebacker. Number 16, Tyler Weigel, quarterback, defensive end. Number 17, Ben Steck, wide receiver, defensive end. Number 19, Anthony Homa, wide receiver, defensive end. Number 20, Dan Turner, tight end, defensive end. Jack could not be here today, but number 21, Jack Dudokinski, running back, defensive end. Number 22, Justin Archer, wide receiver, defensive end. Number 26, Curtis Smith, fullback linebacker. Number 28, Ryan Mitchke, fullback linebacker. Number 55, Joe Seifert, offensive line linebacker. Number 62, Ethan Delo, offensive line, defensive line. Number 66, Eric Zumla, offensive line, defensive end. Number 68, Lucas Tahara, offensive line, defensive line. Number 71, Frank Giogas, offensive line, defensive line. Number 74, Dominic Ramza, offensive line, defensive line. Number 77, Tyler Grant, offensive line, defensive line. Number 78, Griffin Miller, offensive line, defensive line. Number 80, Luke Seifert, tight end, linebacker. And number 88, Josh Archer, tight end, defensive line. Let's make sure I didn't forget a junior, correct? Or a sophomore, correct? Okay. What I'd like to do is say a few words about this group as a whole. When you look up here, we had many underclassmen contribute to what we did on the field this year, which is great, obviously, going into next year. But every single player up in front of you made an impact in our program, regardless of playing time. This is something that cannot be overlooked. It takes a whole group to be successful, and this group did just that all year. They made our team more complete and more competitive. They were inexperienced at the varsity level, but continued to grow and mature throughout the season. We threw some guys into the fire early, and they did not disappoint. They learned, they battled, they sacrificed, and they got better, and they earned the respect of our seniors. What else could you ask for out of a group of young varsity football players? I would just challenge all of you to continue your desire to improve and succeed, and do not allow mediocrity and apathy to settle in. Apathy, Steve.
Good one. I was just thinking that's good. I just got to look it up, but it's good.
Keep playing with passion and pride, and good things will always happen. Thanks, guys, for all of your efforts, and we will look forward, obviously, to another successful run with each and every one of you. Great job, guys. We're going to go ahead and start with our seniors now. Number 5, Ben Muscala, quarterback, defensive back. Number 7, Chris Krantz, wide receiver, defensive back. Number 11, Trevor Knight, wide receiver, defensive back. Number 30, Blake Bielik, fullback, linebacker. Defensive line, I should say. Matt Newbold, offensive line, defensive line. Jack Hammond, offensive line, defensive line. Casey Dummett, offensive line, linebacker. Number 58, Lonnie Apolloni, offensive line, defensive line. Number 64, Logan Snyder, offensive line, defensive end. Number 76, Stephen Palmieri, offensive line, defensive line. Number 81, Brian Butcher, tight end, defensive end. Number 82, Mo Issa, wide receiver, defensive back. Number 83, Sean Rustowitz, kicker, defensive end, punter. And number 86, Caleb Messing, tight end, defensive end. I love this group of seniors. Just like I said earlier, because of their overall character. But I still think many people would believe that the only thing we care about as coaches is winning. But that is nowhere near the real truth. I'm proud of this group of seniors for winning some big games for us, obviously, in the past 2 or 3 seasons. But I am most proud of Stephen Palmieri and Ronnie Apolloni coming out for the first time because they wanted to be a part of our football program. And they bought into it and acted like they'd been here for 4 years with us, working extremely hard. I'm most proud that Matt Newbold and Caleb Messing are going into the service and are going to serve our country. And I'm sure they'll do a great job. I am most proud that we have guys in our program like Trevor Knight, Sean Rustowitz, and Ben Muscala, who are all academic, all Western New York, for their work and excellence in the classroom. I am most proud of Jack Hammond and Brian Butcher, who had tough injuries to start the season and continue to work hard and have great attitudes throughout the rest of their season. I am most proud of Casey Dummett, Mo Issa, Chris Krantz, and Logan Snyder, who are 4 of the nicest young men we've ever had in our program. And I'm most proud of Blake Bielik and Ben Muscala for being great leaders and extremely coachable and humble throughout their 4 years in our program. Those are all of the many reasons why this senior class makes me proud to say they're Viking football players. They are all destined to be very successful people in life, whatever they choose to do and whatever path in life they take. Again, thank you, seniors, for making us proud of everything you've done in the past 4 years. Thanks, guys. We're going to now call up the players that received all league honors. And some of you or most of you might have already seen them in the paper. Sometimes we hope they don't come out till after the banquet, but because the banquet is a little later, you know, people saw them before they were announced at the banquet. So, Mo Issa, defensive back, honorable mention. Matt Newbold, honorable mention, offensive lineman. Justin Archer, honorable mention, defensive back. Josh Archer, honorable mention, defensive back. And Griffin Miller, honorable mention, offensive line. Our second team all-league players. Anthony Homa, wide receiver. Joe Seifert, linebacker. Luke Seifert, linebacker. And Casey Dummett, linebacker. Our first team all-league players. Ben Muscala, quarterback. Blake Bielik, fullback. Jack Dugo-Kinski, defensive back. Dominic Ramza, offensive line. Curtis Smith, linebacker. And Sean Rustowitz, kicker. Congratulations, guys, for your all-league honors. Obviously, much deserved. Really good job. I'm going to start off first with the Offensive Player of the Year, and I'll have him come up right away. This year's Offensive Player of the Year is quarterback / running back / wide receiver Ben Muscala. It obviously takes more than one player to be successful on offense. Blake Bielik and Jack Dugo-Kinski obviously had great years in our backfield. Anthony Homa had a great year at wide receiver. And Ben really obviously knows he needed all of them along with our offensive line and tight ends to be successful. Ben just did so much for the success of our offense, whether it was throwing it, running it, or catching it. He accounted for 1,406 yards of total offense and 15 touchdowns. He ended up bringing an attitude and a toughness to our offense that's hard to match, along with great leadership. His competitiveness is also unmatched. Ben, if those of you haven't seen, was also named Co-Offensive Player of the Year in our division, which I had another plaque that we're going to give him now, that we had made for him after he was selected. He was also nominated for the Conley Cup 3 times, which is considered the best football player in Western New York. He was also named Academic All-Western New York, which I mentioned earlier. And he was also honored by, obviously, the Buffalo News, if you didn't see that, as honorable mention All-Western New York. So, Ben, congratulations. Fantastic year.
The most important award of the night, Defensive MVP. Our defense was a pleasure to coach this year. We had a solid group of athletes that were always willing to compete, and we're more than happy to play a fast, physical, and attacking style of defense. Most importantly, they were an extremely unselfish and coachable group of athletes. I'd like to ask our defensive MVP to come up while I talk about him while everybody stares at you. Curtis Smith. Those of you that know Curtis know that he plays football with a reckless abandon. There is no off switch with Curtis. Whether it is in practice or a game, he is at full throttle all the time. Actually, when he was injured, we had to shut him down completely because we couldn't even let him run like a wind sprint because it was going to be full bore, he would hurt himself. We had to stop everything. So, Curtis led our team in tackles with 77. He also added 3 sacks. More importantly, though, he led our defense into battle each week with the intensity and desire to play fast physical football that was contagious to the rest of the team. Curtis had a spectacular junior season, and I can't wait to see him play again for us next year. Congratulations, Curtis.
Excuse me. Choked up whenever Steve talks. This year's outstanding lineman goes to a player that worked very hard to solidify a spot on both sides of the ball. His determination and hard work made him into one of the top players. He never complained about anything. Working through the aches and pains of being a lineman every day. Excuse me. I am so proud of the success he showed over the year, and we look forward to seeing what he'll do as a senior. The outstanding lineman goes to Dominic Ramza. Okay, the Viking Awards. Every year we give out a special award to deserving seniors that went above and beyond what was asked of them to make themselves and the team better, with their commitment, dedication, and loyalty. We want to recognize all of our seniors for the efforts that they portrayed throughout their time in the program, but tonight we'll honor 5 seniors that are deserving of this award. For me to talk about each one individually would be a waste of time. We're talking about the same type of person, same type of individual, same type of player. Gosh. So, to cut down on my embarrassment right now, we're going to call the 5 up. First one is Jack Hammond. Second individual, Mo Issa. Third, Trevor Knight. Fourth, Chris Krantz. Lastly, Sean Bubba Rostowitz. Once again, we'd like to thank all of our seniors that are moving on. You definitely made your mark on the program. Thank you to you 5 that have stepped up a little bit more and proven what a Viking really is. Congratulations, guys.
Every year on every team, there is a player that often goes under the radar, but is absolutely integral to the success of a team and of a season. These are typically my favorite players. They show up each day, work hard, take pride in their work, and ask for nothing in return. We honor this player with our Unsung Player Award. This year's Unsung Player Award is the Casey Dummett. Stand there and look at everybody. Year in and year out, there's always a player or two that as a junior is not necessarily a full-time starter, but they work hard each day in practice to get better. They have the pride in themselves and the maturity to know that one day their hard work will pay off, even if it's not until their senior year. Casey worked hard on scout defense last year and improved every day. Going into this year, we had no idea what role he would actually have, but we did know that we would get the best effort day in and day out, and therefore, he would make our team better every day. Turns out that Casey played a huge role in our success this year. He was an extremely tough and physical offensive lineman for us, despite his size. We never had a doubt that Casey would battle every second of every down. Defensively, Casey finished as our second leading tackler, had 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, while recovering 3 fumbles during the season. Casey was a tough, dedicated football player. He was an absolute pleasure to coach. He was also an extremely likable young man. And best of all, he can cook. He delivered jambalaya, other great samples of his cooking. That was always appreciated. So thank you, Casey, and congratulations. The next award is the Bill Riffle Heart of a Champion Award. This award is given to the athlete who best represents the complete player on the team. Each letter of the word complete represents a trait of that complete football player. Committed, optimistic, I'm not going to do the letters. Optimistic, mentally tough, prepared, love for the game, energetic, teachable, and endurance. From the 1970s to the 2000s, Bill Riffle was a football and lacrosse coach as well as a physics teacher at Grand Island High School. He was an integral part in the countless Viking victories and championships. But more importantly, he was a cherished and respected role model for generations of Viking athletes. By the way, as I'm reading that, I'm thinking, Bill's not dead, okay? That sounds like he's gone, and I know some people out there that know him would be concerned. He's doing very well. He's enjoying his retirement with his grandkids. He's wonderful. Okay. This year's Heart of a Champion recipient is a player that exemplifies the traits of a complete football player as well as a player that Coach Riffle would have been proud of, both on and off the field. The Heart of a Champion award winner is Ben Muscala. We've talked a lot about Ben already, but I'm going to say my little piece, so stand there for a sec. Ben has always been a leader by example, but this year especially, he also became a vocal leader for our team. His fire and competitive spirit was much greater than I ever expected, and his competitive fire was overwhelmingly obvious to anyone who watched him play this year. You could just feel his passion and his competitiveness from watching him battle. And you guys couldn't hear this. He would come to the sideline, though. He would mutter stuff that, moms, cover your ears, but but he would be like, I hate Star Point. Ask me afterwards what the word, I didn't figure it out. But things like that, you could feel it, how passionate he was. It's fantastic. And I will say this, and I told him this after the last game. I've been around Viking football as a player, spectator, coach for 40 years, playing. But Ben Muscala has undoubtedly earned a spot in my personal short list of all-time Viking greats. So, thank you, Ben.
I'm going to now give our Gene Masters Memorial Award. This year's, I'm going to call him up right away so we can talk about him. This year's Gene Masters Memorial Award goes to fullback defensive lineman Blake. This award is obviously in honor of our late Coach Masters, who started this program and is the reason why we are all here today. It is, to me, as important of an award as any that we give out tonight, because it stands not only for just overall ability and performance on the field for the year and for their career, but also for a toughness and an attitude that Coach Masters expected all of his players to exhibit, regardless of where they were asked to play. I can't think of a better player to receive this award for all that he did in our last 3 years of our program than Blake Pielek. He exhibited everything that Coach Masters stood for in a player. We brought him up as a sophomore when we had injuries halfway through his sophomore year. He stepped right into our starting lineup on defense and played great football as a sophomore because he believed in himself and he had that toughness as a sophomore. Last year and this year, playing on both sides of the ball, he was a leader on the offense at fullback. He led our defensive line and had 2 unbelievable seasons there. Several weeks we had coaches after games say to us, or personally say to me, gosh, who's that 30 kid? He's tough to handle up there. And you know what? We know that and we saw it, but it's nice when other people recognize that when you talk to coaches the weeks to follow. So again, I can't thank you enough for showing that toughness and that competitive nature and having a great career for us. Blake was also nominated for the Trench Trophy for his defensive line play, which is given out to the best offensive defensive lineman in Western New York. He was nominated for that. He was also nominated for the Conley Cup twice, which is the same as I said for Ben, which is the outstanding football player in Western New York. And he was also yesterday selected by the Buffalo News as honorable mention all Western New York defensive linemen. Great job, Blake. The couple seniors wanted to come up for a second. Are you coming up for a second?
All right, so on behalf of all the seniors that are graduating this year, we'd like to thank all the coaches for giving all their time and effort into making our team a better team overall, and also bettering us not only as football players, but more importantly, as young men. So we really thank you guys for giving it all. So thanks.
Again, we want to thank everyone, obviously, for your support. We want to thank all of our players in this room. Again, I want everyone to understand that we appreciate every effort that every kid in our program gives. We don't care about playing time. Some of our favorite kids of all time are kids that never stepped on the field. That's what's really important to understand and know. Okay, it's important to us. I hope it's important to all of you that are players, and I hope parents understand that. We appreciate everything they do and every effort they give. Hopefully, the younger guys see how we respect and love our kids that are leaving our program and can continue to emulate what they did over the course of their career. Okay, that's important. See what they did, follow in their footsteps, be the same type of people they are, and ultimately whatever happens by the time you graduate with wins and losses, if you do those things, you're going to be pretty successful. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate it. Go Bills. Enjoy the game.
Huh?